Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday morning and the old cookbook show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of this cookbook from 1924 called Carolina Cookery from Quaker Kitchens, published in High Point, North Carolina, 1924. Community cookbook, community church cookbook. Lots of very interesting recipes, but it has a recipe that I will come back to again and again and again called a dump cake. Mostly because I am fascinated by how many different versions of a dump cake there are. And that, dump cake doesn't even always use the same method across time and location. There are a lot of dump cakes in Canadian cookbooks from this time period and into the 1960s where you heat everything in a pot and you dump everything together in the pot and mix it together in the pot and then put it in the cake pan and cook it. This one, you dump everything together and you mix it and then you put it in the oven just in a regular mixing jug. And then there's the sort of post-1960 version of dump cake, which is a box cake mix that that you put in like a can of fruit filling for a pie. That dump cake really doesn't show up until early to mid 1960s. I'll pull up some of the earliest versions of that from newspaper research that I've done. This one is really plain. I mean, it comes down to dump, sort of signifies really quick. Put it together, get it in the oven, you have a cake. There's no flavoring to this one either. So it tells me to put a quarter cup of melted butter in a measuring cup, put in 2 eggs, and then fill the cup with milk. So now we put that into our mixing jug. And then, as the name suggests, we just dump everything else in. So we dump in the sugar, baking powder, and the flour. And only once everything is in do we beat thoroughly. And I think what fascinates me about this is that this recipe is 1924. And the recipe is obviously aimed at people who, want to get a cake on the table really quickly. The box cake mix in 1924 is at least 10 years away. The first patent is granted in like 1933, and it's unclear exactly when that company brought it to market. It looks like it was kind of mid-1930s before it came to market, and a lot of other companies jumped on board, but the war years intervene, and box cake mixes don't really take off until post-World War II. But I guess what I don't understand is how a box cake mix is easier than that. I just don't get it. I mean, that was really simple. Things that most people would already have in their kitchen. I mean, with box cake mixes, you have to put in a couple of eggs anyway, don't you? So what's the difference? And I mean, yes, this one has no flavoring, but of course, even though it has no flavoring, it's the perfect palette, I believe, that you could put any flavoring in here that you want. It's so easy to put in some lemon flavoring or vanilla, of course, or something else. You could put in some cocoa and make this into a chocolate cake really easily. Now, as is the norm in this time period, there's no baking instructions. There's no pan size instructions. I think my pan is too big. Just out of habit, I chose a 9x9 because that's what I always do. I'm looking at this thinking it would be much better in an 8x8. So I'm going to go down to the equipment room and get an 8x8 and we'll get this moving. Okay, 8x8. You're going to make mistakes in the kitchen. Don't get flustered. Think it through and recover. It's really easy. Don't worry too much about it. So I'll just get this moved over to the smaller cake pan and we'll get it in the oven. There we go. Everything's fine. Okay.
Hurrah! Cake!
Yes.
Hey friends, hey Glenn.
So this is a dump cake from 1924, I believe this cookbook was.
Okay.
Now, It says, not all of the recipes are strictly original, but the signature after each guarantees that they have been proved and found excellent.
Ah, so someone tested it.
So
who was our tester?
Mrs. D.C. Maxfield guarantees that we are going to like this cake.
She guarantees if she makes it, it works out.
It works out,
There's
yes.
no guarantee that when we make it, it works out.
Well,
but it
that's-
looks like it.
That's true. It really always works for the recipe developer, but often it doesn't work for people trying it at home. Okay,
Looks great.
there's no flavoring in it.
No? That's a pretty good yellow cake.
It is, definitely.
Right? So it's something that you would put strawberries with or icing
That's what I was
on,
going to
or-
say. I was going to say I would put some fresh fruit with this and some whipped cream, and it would be really good.
Yeah.
Or you could come at it with a little lemon flavoring when you cook it. Mm-hmm. It could stand some vanilla, but on its own, it's a good cake. Like it's that. You could have this in the oven in 15 minutes, and 45 minutes after you start making it, it's on the table.
You've got a cake to have, which is great. So, Mrs. Maxfield, you are correct. It's a pretty good recipe.
It's actually a really good cake. I'm going to enjoy this.
I feel like you doubted it.
I did doubt it a little bit. Because it's, it's so simple. How's it going to be any good? And there it is. Simplicity sometimes is the best thing. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.